So there's a lot going on here. So these are just different projects that I'm working on. So the Kubernetes project, I I so I got this project done right, and I was able to deploy it with Terraform. But sometimes I'm very hard-headed in terms of when I'm working on something, I want it to be as perfect as it can be. Now I find myself coming up with solution, which is one of the skills you have as a cloud engineer is you have to figure out how your environment is set up and if there's ways you can make it better or what you need to do, right? So I'm working on this Kubernetes thing. I deployed the infrastructure, which is just my VPC, everything, the Kubernetes cluster and the node with Terraform. Then, once you have your cluster, then you can deploy your resources in that cluster, your Kubernetes resources in that cluster. So my question is, and anyone that knows you guys can feel free to chime in. What are people doing out there? Because I haven't worked on a project where we use Kubernetes. What are people doing out there? Are they fully deploying their resources using IAC tool like Terraform or CloudFormation, or they are deploying it using other methods? So the first solution I worked on is trying to deploy it with Terraform, which is like my deployment file, my service file, and my Kubernetes config map file, things like that, right? And for the most part, it does deploy some of this, but I'm running into issues, especially when I have to install Helm. And Terraform is not really good for like installing stuff. It's not the tool for that. It's only really good for infrastructure. So So what I'm doing now is I'm switching the whole entire solution around where, and I did ask ChatGPT, it told me that that's typically not the recommended way companies do it. So now what I'm working on is I'll use Terraform to deploy my infrastructure, which is my VPC, RDS, migrate my data, um, everything, the network, then I will create my Kubernetes cluster and the worker node. Then once that is done, then I'll write a script that would do the deployment of the app, which is what I have before, that works. Um, but that's what I'm working on now. But the only other thing is I'm working on pulling, I'll show you guys. Let me just push this. Okay. Pull this in. All right. So what I'm working on is here. I have So here I have my script, right? This is the script I'm working on. So once um once I apply my cluster and I create the infrastructure, then I'm just going to run the script to do the deployment of the application itself on the Kubernetes cluster. This is what ChatGPT said is the recommended way. And I have my manifest files, right? So my manifest files are here. Another thing I'm doing is, so this is what I had before and I'm changing it to this. So another thing I'm doing is for the manifest file, I'm including environment variables in it. So that way the manifest file can be dynamic and it can just pull the values from the script. So the script will apply those values as I'm running it. So, I mean, if anyone has experience with Kubernetes, you can let me know what you've seen. How is the manifest file being deployed? Uh, I'm not sure if it's, but according to ChatGPT, this is the method. You have to deploy it, and I agree because I was just running into so many issues trying to. One of the issues I was running into is in my deployment of the app on the Kubernetes cluster. Let's say there's a service that I'm trying to deploy. It needs a value from the cluster, but if the Kubernetes cluster is not created, you can't get that value. So I can't even run a Terraform plan because the value that the Terraform plan needs to even give me a plan comes from the cluster, and the cluster is not created at that time. So I shifted it into like having two state files, one for the cluster and one for the deployment. And I also ran into another issue. So, and that's when I realized that Terraform might not be the best to do the EKS deployment. It's good for the infrastructure, but not the deployment. So this is what I'm working on now.
Are you gonna once you figure it on out, are you gonna give us another updated project? That's what you're trying to say?
No, I'll just have the Terraform code that you guys
Okay.
can use. Yeah. I just have the
Okay.
Terraform code. Like I've updated this script now. Let me get the older version of it and I'll show you guys because it works.
Hey Z, I was looking at that Ansible project,
Mm-hmm.
and I seen that you was using putty. Do you do you want us to get familiar with the putty because it looked like it was like an old version? So
Mm-hmm.
for the Ansible project, but that's how you did it for a reason, just to get familiar with putty and all that. So that's
Yeah,
how you want that.
at the time when I recorded that video, I was using Podipod. If you are used to a different way of connecting to your instance, you can use that method. You don't have to use Podi.
Okay.
So
I use putty. I use putty. It's not a problem. I just thought that it'll be a good way to get used to putty because I'm assuming most companies. I don't think they're going to.
no, most
I
companies
think
don't
they
use Podi. They
got you,
use something else.
got you, got you.
Yeah. So they use something else, but you guys can use Podi. So at same point, once you start working on your projects, right? And once you start working on your projects and you know what you are doing, you can use you don't have to use the same exact method I used in mine. You can use whatever you want to use.
Gotcha,
Right.
gotcha.
So, and that goes with anything. For example, when I was talking to someone this week, um, and it was migrating the data into the RDS, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I told them the same thing. You can use any method so she understood two methods, migrating it from your local machine and migrating it from the EC2 instance. I said, if I'm using one method on my video, the main thing I want you to understand is the concept of what we are trying to do. And if you figure out a better way to get it done, then do that. That also shows that you are learning. That's actually what I expect and what I prefer. So,
Yeah.
anything I've worked on, you guys always feel free to challenge it and enhance it. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, I've seen other methods in doing that, but I think I like the flyway method. It's really, it's not
Yeah.
it doesn't look
Yeah.
complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Flyweight. Awesome.
And then even SSH into the EC2 instance, in as much as I remember when we started, it was all using Putty. There's also another tool that I used to use as well, which was really cool. But using the EC2 instance connect endpoint makes it feels like it's a game changer instead of
Yes,
playing around
yes,
with all
I
those
agree.
those keys and all that. It looks that's the reason why we're in the tech world, because I feel like they make things better as time goes by. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the EC2 instance connect endpoint, once you create it, dude, you just go in there, boom, you're in. It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, right.
I agree. I think you can and at work, that's what I'm saying. At work, nobody use Putty because
Yeah.
with Putty, you have to manage a lot of SSH keys that way, and I don't think they really want to do
And to be
stuff like
honest,
that.
I mean, you don't want to go into an interview and start talking about Putty, man.
That's true.
Because someone is gonna be like, this guy is still old school, man. I'm telling you, man. Yeah, you're gonna raise a red flag right there. Someone is gonna doubt you. Is he
Yeah,
still talking about Putty? Or when there's like AWS created something new that we can use that's easy,
right, right.
when within the tech, you just don't want to go in there and start sounding like you've been doing this thing, but your ideas are kind of like stale. Yeah. So we just got to be careful about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay. All
Go
right.
with the flow. It's better.
I agree. I mean, so the Putty was way back when. Now
Way back.
that
Yeah.
and also at work, your company will have their own method of connecting to their EC2 instance. So just use whatever method your company, and you will learn that whatever their method is, you will learn it, and that's what you will use. So in doing our project is when we just try different ways. So the whole point of doing Putty and doing EC2 instance connect endpoint is just to show you the different ways. But what I do like about Putty is the method, Putty method is it helps you understand just how SSH keys works,
Yeah.
right? So if you are connecting with Putty and you understand how SSH keys, the whole how Putty works, which is how Putty works is how SSH key works, is the same way when you add your SSH key to GitHub so you can clone your repository. It's the same thing. Just understand the whole concept of the public and the private key. Who needs to have the private key? Who needs to have the public key? And once you understand that, really, that's all you need to understand when it comes to SSH. At that point, it doesn't really matter what tools you use. SSH is you can connect with PowerShell. It's still this using SSH, and it's still the same concept of the public and the private key.
Okay. All right. So yeah, this what I'm thinking. I'm gonna do it the video way, and then I'm gonna do it the PowerShell way, and I'm gonna do the EC2 connect endpoint way. I guess it ain't gonna hurt anybody to do it. It's a pretty much a short video. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess I do them three ways just to get more fluent with it, just in case I go into the interview and I can tell them I deployed it the Putty way. If y'all use a Putty, I did it deploy the PowerShell way. If y'all do it the PowerShell way,
Mm-hmm.
or y'all do it to connect EC2 input. But for as the for to go back, for as the hiring manager, is there a way that I can get like just to get a stronger insight for as like asking the hiring manager if he might reply to me for as what kind of projects are they working on, do that project, send it to him, let him know that okay, well, this person he can get this job done. Let him know it took um it only took me a day and a half to get it done. Will they recognize that for as okay, well, he has some kind of experience dealing with this kind of software and this kind of experience?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think there's
that's
two
a
ways
good
to.
idea. That's a
Yeah.
good idea. You can definitely try that out. That's definitely a good idea.
Yeah. And
Um,
like I said before, there's two ways you can do that. You can, when you're talking to the recruiter, you can let them know that, hey, is there a way for me to is there a way for you to let the manager know that I've got like my projects that I'm working on? I can send him the link so he can take a look at that. And even while you're in the interview, you can tell them that, hey, I mean, let's say for example, you're talking about Terraform and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff. You're explaining all your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I do have my Terraform file here if you guys don't mind me showing. I did that in one interview at a time and they were like, yeah, let's take a look. And they liked it and we went along. So there's kind of like that too. There's two ways to it. When you're dealing with the recruiter, you can make that request just so they know. And then the hiring manager will get back to them and say, okay, yes, let him send me the files. Like when it comes to the tools that I use for work now, like Tableau and stuff, a lot of times the managers would ask for like a Tableau public URL wherein they can go in and see what kind of like visualizations you've created. So I feel like it's the same. You make that request and then if they get back to you, you send it to them. If they don't, within the interview, you can always ask them, tell them, say, hey, I've got something I'd like to show.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right.
And to SSH into an EC2 instance as well, there's another tool you can use. It's called Mobile XTAM. I used to use that a lot instead of Putty because when you use Mobile XTAM, you get a lot of like this color that you see now on the screen. It's a lot more, you can see a lot more. It's cooler. It's called Mobile XTAM. That's one of the.
Mobile, and put it in the chat. I'm gonna check it on out.
Okay.
If it works for me, it works for me. But if it don't work for me, I'm just gonna use. I know how to use PowerShell and I know how to use the EC2 Connect endpoint. But I'll check it on out, see if it works for me, and I'll deploy the Ansible website, and I'll go from there. Yeah, just put it in the Slack or in this chat. I'm gonna check it on out.
Okay, I'm gonna put it there now.
Now, AZ, you were talking about your deployment files.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to apply now, but then I'm getting some. I know because I recently changed some stuff, so because I'm still working on it and I'm moving things around. That's why I'm getting this error, but I know how to fix it. So just need to. So this one, this config map, this is how I'm trying to add a use the user that I'm going to use to log into the management console. I'm adding the user to my Kubernetes config map file so that way they can have access to the cluster. Because one thing you guys should understand when you are working on the project is whoever created the cluster is the only going to be the one that have access to it. Then you have to start giving other people access, right? It doesn't matter if I have a administrator access. I'm still not going to have access. I will be able to see the cluster, but I'm not going to be able to see the pods in the cluster. So if you want to give someone access to, you use the config map file. So this is one of the stuff I was telling you guys about. So this config map file, the way I have it now is it needs to get the config map because that file gets created when the Kubernetes cluster gets created. But the file, and I had this file in the resources before, then I moved it to the cluster because I'm getting rid of the resources since I'm going to use the script to create my Kubernetes resource. But so now in here, I'm using data source to get the information on the config map. But how is the plan going to get the information if it hasn't even been applied yet? So that's what I'm trying to change now. Yeah. So sometimes when you work on these things, really, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. The experience also comes from working on it for a while. Sometimes it takes me a long time to work on stuff too. You know, I work on stuff, delete it, switch it around. You know, it takes time. So that's why I'm saying that's where you guys um learning experience is going to come from. You know, just from running into issues and trying to resolve that issue and think through it and how to resolve it. So let me find that config map. I think this one will work. I'll just comment this out for now. So if anyone have any question, please feel free to interrupt me. We'll I just want to deploy this and to show you that it works. And deploying the Kubernetes app on Kubernetes with Terraform works. But in this way, like I said, I'm going to deploy the cluster first. Then I'll use my script to deploy the resource on the cluster. Okay, I'm applying the cluster now. So this should create pretty much my entire infrastructure. Should create my entire infrastructure, the Kubernetes cluster and the Kubernetes worker node.
And Aziz, I've got a question that I wanted to talk about was
Sure.
with regards to infrastructure now. If you notice the trend now, it's Terraform, just like what we were talking about with when it comes to SSHing into your EC2 instance.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was cloud formation, but you don't see companies doing that anymore. And yeah, you would have it on your resume and stuff, but when you talk to companies, they don't even talk about it. Everyone is like, Terraform is the go-to now. Do you, what are kind of like the differences between those two tools that I know one is an older technology for sure, but what's the real reason as to why Terraform is way better now?
Um, I don't. I think it's just what people feel companies feel comfortable with. Whether Terraform is, yeah, I mean, it's just on user preference. So you can argue if you like Terraform, you can argue that Terraform is better. I think Terraform has some advantage in some ways, and CloudFormation has some advantage in some way. Um,
Yeah,
and
even though
one of it, go ahead.
Mhm. No, even though it's a matter of preference, that is something I know. You see, you talk to but you see, I'm just talking about like on a scale of like, percentage now, when it comes to like how heavily these tools have been used. You will notice now like most jobs on
Yes,
Indeed, yeah, it's mainly Terraform. That's
yes.
kind of like what I want to know. Why is that now? Is it because it's just
Um,
new or what?
I think most companies just use Terraform because I don't know, Terraform is the popular of the two.
Yeah.
Terraform um is also very much customizable than CloudFormation. When you are troubleshooting whatever error you are getting, Terraform is much more user friendly than CloudFormation. So, and I think most companies just prefer to use Terraform. The only people I see using CloudFormation is always like in the government.
Yeah,
When I've worked on like government positions, they tend to use
exactly.
CloudFormation, but of like private companies and almost everyone use Terraform. And
Okay.
really, there's no difference. It just means that one is just an AWS
Provider.
natives IAC2, and the other
Yeah,
one is like a third party too.
third
So
party too.
Fees, can I chime in on this one?
yeah,
So,
sure,
so do you think that with Terraform, would it be in cloud agnostic where you can deploy to multiple clouds that play the
true.
part?
Yes, that is a perfect answer. And I think that's the key point I missed. That's one of the main key points. Exactly. So because Terraform is just like AWS CloudFormation only works in AWS in their
AWS.
management console. So if you need to deploy something to Azure, you can go and use your CloudFormation template. But I think Yashin said it. That is the main reason why companies would prefer Terraform to CloudFormation because
They want you to
It,
stick
it
to
supports
everything AWS, yes,
it supports deployment to just about any cloud
environment.
technology, any cloud technology. You can, it's not just AWS, you can use Terraform to deploy to. You can use CloudFormation to deploy to Azure. You can use it to deploy tools like I'm pretty sure like SonarCube, Snowflake, all those, it has support for so many different providers. So if a company,
Yeah. Whereas
even
CloudFormation is mainly for
exactly, is CloudFormation is just
AWS,
strictly AWS.
AWS, yeah.
So
Yeah.
if a company is using multiple cloud tools and they also anticipate using more in the future, so I can see why they will use Terraform instead of CloudFormation. Yeah, thank you, Sean. That
Yeah,
was it.
like,
Thank you.
and
Thanks.
I guess I want to ask a question, kind of leans onto that. Why do you think that Kubernetes is exploding the way it is at the moment?
Mm, I really don't. I think it's because it just makes um for companies that needs to use Kubernetes, where you have different microservices you're working on, right? Different containers you have to run. Managing them, Kubernetes just makes it easier to manage it. But on the flip side, I've also seen companies that only they are using Docker, EKS and Docker and ECS, and they only have two containers, and Kubernetes is kind of like an overkill for them. So for me, I feel like is if you have the need for it, where let's say you have 100 containers to manage, right? Kubernetes makes it easy to use. Just specify one manifest file, specify your configuration in it, and all your containers are up running the way they are supposed to run.
Yeah, because
Um,
I was I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was reading about, like a lot of these AI models that we use, and it was saying that, you see the term DevOps to platform engineer to now AI engineers, but it was saying that like pretty much all these AI models that we use are underpinned by Kubernetes, and DevOps engineers are going to have to come to terms with like fully understanding Kubernetes, because Kubernetes is kind of like what makes these AI models really run. So I didn't know, what's your take on that perspective? I mean, it's a lot of they were saying, the reading that I was reading was saying that like with cloud native, there's a lot of technologies under it, but it was saying that Kubernetes is kind of like you can't run it without Kubernetes. So do you have any
Yeah, it just depends. So like we were talking about last week, it depends on what type of job you are working on. For a lot of smaller companies that are just trying to like focus on getting their application on the cloud, right? All that stuff wouldn't even matter to them, right? Because even if you are trying to integrate AI, for example, in my project now, we're actually trying to integrate AI into our application. And it's funny that Daniel said it earlier, where he took a class on prompt engineering. That is exactly what we are trying to do. I mean, I'm not the one working on it. We have other engineers that are working on it, but that is exactly what they are working on. They are working on prompt engineering and integrating that into our application. So when users come to the app and they have their questions and they type their question, the question is taken through the code through to wherever it needs to get to the AI, and the AI is responding and they are presenting the answer back to the user in a user-friendly way. So what am I trying to say? Let's say if you're working for a company like Meta, Google, you probably have to worry about that the whole Kubernetes things on the back end and all that stuff. But if you're working for which I feel like majority of the jobs are just companies deploying their application in the cloud and just managing it. I feel like for those type of job, prompt engineering would be much more of like a skill set you need to learn, because at that point it would just be the AI tool will always be there, like Claude, the one Meta provides, ChatGPT, and whatever AI tools are out there, right? It will just be you understanding how to integrate those AI tool into your application to do whatever you guys need to do. So that's what I'll say. So if you are more of like a big, I'm working for a big company, yeah, you might have to know the Kubernetes in and out. But how I see smaller companies using AI is they are not really building the back end to of the AI. They're just using all the models that are out there and just working on the prompt engineering to fit into the application. That's
So,
exactly what we are doing on our project now.
so
Ha-
this
Have,
the last part I want to add to it, right? So like, when we talk about future proofing your career, right? Um, are you saying that prompt engineering is probably the direction you go in, or because when you look at like any company now, they're basically accumulating so much data that
Mm-hmm.
they need to figure out how to understand that data to give the answer or the understanding of the customer or the logistics or blah blah blah. Do you think that learning something like prompt engineering is better than learning Kubernetes? Or, I mean, what would you say that will future proof your career?
Oh, for me to future proof my career, I would focus. I would learn more of prompt engineering and how to integrate AI tools with different apps, right? So building apps on AWS and integrating AI tools into that build. That would be my focus. But everyone's focus is different. So if you are someone that cares about, so for me, and we've discussed this before, and I think it was kind of like split for me. I really don't care to learn the actual building of the AI tool, of how it really works on the back end in terms of like how ChatGPT works on the back end. I really feel like people that work on stuff like that are on a genius level. Not that I can't do it, but I really just don't want to do it. But I want to focus more on, okay, ChatGPT has provided this um, AI module that I can use, right? It has the API. How can I use this API? Um, how can I use this API to build different apps on AWS? I think that would be more of like a part that I personally will go. You understand? So there's understanding the back end of the building of those model itself, and there's also the and there was like that interview. Jensen one, the CEO of NVIDIA, did that one time last year when he was talking about where it sees coding going, right? And that was kind of like what he was talking about, where he was saying something along the line that it's not the AI that will take your job, but rather the people that understands how to use the AI, right? So if you want to really future proofing your career, is just continue to build your skills, keep up with the latest technology. But for me, I'll focus more on prompt engineering. Like I'm not like other than what I'm doing now in Kubernetes, and maybe like I can always enhance it, adding different things to it. I wouldn't do more than what I'm doing now. Unless if there is a need for me to, then I will. But I feel like there's other things I can learn. But it just depends on it's just that's more of like also a personal preference.
Okay,
So
thanks.
yeah. So let me ask you, so what do you think? So for you, where do you see yourself going? Do you feel that you are you feeling like you need to learn, focus on just understanding and knowing how to use the AI tool? Or do you feel like you need to go deeper than that and understand the actual building of the AI tool itself?
I think from a practical standpoint, what you said makes a lot of sense. You understanding like how to pull the API, how to use the API, how to prompt it, how to get data from it. I also do think though, like, um, you're starting to see trends where different like job perspectives are coming out, and they kind of want you to have a somewhat of a foundational understanding of some of these tools.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it will hurt. For me personally, I'm like I think last 2 weeks ago, I asked you about if you were to do it over again, what would you do? And you told me about you would actually get a cert in Kubernetes, you would get Terraform, you would get an AWS cert, you wouldn't get all these AWS certs.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, I've started the process of learning Kubernetes. And
Certainly,
it's fascinating. So um,
certainly.
yeah, so I think I'm taking that course first, kind of be more of a generalist, but I don't know if I will hunker down straight on Kubernetes because I do every one that I'm pulling up on Indeed and different websites, I'm starting to see that Kubernetes pop up quite a bit. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
take on it.
Yeah, to buttress what you just talked about. I remember about a year ago, I was in um McDonald's. I was just doing like a basic studying and stuff. I was at the time I was kind of like trying to get a sense of Kubernetes and stuff. And this Kubernetes engineer walked in and he just saw my laptop. He walked up to me. The guy was like, "Dude, you're doing the right thing." He kind of like he was screaming in the restaurant. He was like, "Dude, this is the right thing you're doing. Learning Kubernetes, this is the way to go now. When it comes to doing all the applications and stuff," he said, "that's where the world is going into now." That was like, I would say like a year ago. He was so excited. He walked up to me. He was like, "You're learning Kubernetes? That is really good, man." Yeah. So it just speaks volume to what you're talking about now. And when you go on to like Indeed and stuff, you see it's all to, when you're containerization or containerizing applications from Docker, you see it all goes to Kubernetes. It's all Kubernetes. Yeah. So it's a good thing to get to know.
Yeah, because I mean, I mean, even when you look at microservices compared to monolithic applications,
Mm-hmm.
and people look at it like, microservices is the way to go because of if something breaks, you kind of know where it's at, and it
Right.
doesn't mess up everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it just it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. It's kind of like Docker. I mean, Docker, like everything is being containerized where you could package it, you could send it off to people, and you kind of break that point where it doesn't work on my machine, but it works on mine, kind of thing. So I think I think it's just the way to go, and it's so. I mean, it's complex. Don't get me wrong; it's very complex, but once you get it up and it's kind of like controlling everything, it's fascinating. So I just say that.
Yeah, I agree. Um, Hello D. Yes. So yeah, cloud engineering position is I've always felt like cloud engineering position and DevOps position I've always to me in the jobs that I've worked where I had a cloud engineering title and job that I've worked where I had DevOps engineering title, I've always done the same thing. Like unless and if you guys know, you guys can chime in. What are cloud engineers doing at different companies? Because I feel like isn't it like just still doing like your whole cloud deployment and stuff like that, or does their job goes beyond that in actually um building the application itself, like the architect of what the deployment will look like? Because I've always thought that was just like a job of a solutions architect. So in my position that I've worked, I've always done the same work. Um, like when I was working as a cloud engineer, I was using Docker, Terraform, um, CI/CD, things like that. Same to DevOps engineer I use. And as a cloud engineer, they don't give you access to the console. You have access to the console to view things, but you're still doing a lot of your work using CLI, Terraform, um, Docker. So I've always felt like the both position are kind of the same. The name is just different.
Yeah, and even lately, it's hard for you to be able to find a job that's just doing cloud engineering work now. It's not even possible. It's 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 rolling both of them at the same time and being able to use the same tools within the DevOps um, um, landscape and also the cloud engineering landscape. And there's no way you can just go in. This is like, you're talking probably like 4 or 5 years ago when someone can just apply and get a role as a cloud engineer.
Mm-hmm.
It's not out there anymore. It's the possibility of that is very, very, very slim now. So your your training package, what we have, it's kind of like the best of anything that incorporates both of these disciplines together. And so when
Mm-hmm.
you apply for roles and when you start talking that, hey, I did my deployment and then I pushed it to ECR and I'm using Docker, I'm using this, I'm using that, you will tell the interviewer that, hey, he's been doing both. But to be one-sided now, one-dimensional, it's not going to help you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm about to say I kind of feel like they're merging because I always thought when I first started, I thought it was like, all right, DevOps guys, they deal with the pipelines, they deal with that kind of stuff. And then I thought that the cloud engineers would deal with the infrastructure part, which would be like Terraform and stuff like that. But
Mm-hmm.
like you
Yeah.
said, it seems like all of it is just you need to know it all kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And because they
As
don't want to pay two people separately, so they merge two jobs into one so they can pay you a certain amount and save themselves some money if they can do it. So it's funny because it's like when we started, when the old data analytics stuff started, like I would say, let me just go like let me say like 6 years ago, there was a role for a SQL developer, someone that would just write codes and just write the codes and create the report, give it to end users in Excel or whatever. And then there was someone who could take that code and put that into an SSRS because at the time it was all SSRS. This is like a Microsoft thing as well. And the Microsoft stack is SQL, SSRS, and SSIS. Take that code, put it into SSRS for data visualization. And then you had the guys who would take the data from different data sources, let's say a bank that or a company that has data in different locations or wherever. He brings them together and try to merge them, clean the data up. Let's say Amazon in America is using probably on the front end, they're using .NET. Amazon in India is using Java as a front end application, which shows the data for them in the front end. So to get the data together, there'll be a column for currency or the money that for the transactions. There'll be different currency in India and how it's been called or how it's been named. That's the job of the SSIS guy, to take those data, put them together, make it look like one, do all the cleaning and all that stuff. Now, dude, if you're looking for a data analytics role now, you should be able to do all of that, what I just told you now. And not only do all of that, there's more tools as well. And then you need more certs. So it's when technologies come out, you see it's been separated. You can do it easily, one at a time or by itself. And then as time goes on, employers try to squish all of that together just so they don't pay three people. They can pay someone that will do all of that and then get the job done. So it's more so saving them some money. And so when it's fresh, you would see there's a lot of separation. But as time goes on, you would see it's hard now to even get someone that can. Initially, someone could just know how to use Docker and get a job, but it's not happening anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now they definitely want you to know more.
Mm-hmm.
So as more skills they can fit into your role, that's what most companies doing now. So
And
And
that's what's making.
the projects that you have, we kind of use everything that what Daniel was saying.
Mm-hmm. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of what you're giving us, because we get to play with all of this at the same time.
Yeah, sure do. Sure do. Yeah.
yeah, which is why I said and once you guys are done with the project, then you still have to even always there's always other things you can now take that knowledge and continue to, if you're talking about future proof of your career and your future proof and just always making that something where you know is guaranteed you will be fine. The best thing you can do for yourself is just continue to build your skill sets. Just continue to learn. I feel like that's where I get my confidence from. I just told you guys about which my job I put in my 2 weeks notice on Monday, right? Then next Friday will be my last day. But it's not like I've found another job, but I get the confidence from knowing that as long as I continue to build my skill set, I'll be fine. Either when I'm ready to go apply, I can go apply for another job, or I can just use that skill set and try to use it to create a job for myself. So there's really, in this day and age, you just have to get creative. There are so many different ways you can try to monetize your skill set. It's not just always 9 to 5. There are tons of new people coming into cloud, trying to learn cloud. You can just having a social media presence where you are talking about cloud. I see people with that channels like that where they just give you information and about just how to navigate, get into cloud and things you need to do. And they have good following and that they are monetizing. So that's why I always say building your skill set is one of the main things you have to do. As long as you focus on that, you'll be fine. There will be somebody that needs that skill set that you have. So that's what I was saying. So I was working, I did have this thing before, but in my own deployment file here, right? In my own deployment file, I changed everything around. Did I? I thought I did. No, I hope I didn't go and change it back to what I'm not supposed to change it to. Because this is what I'm trying to create. So I have my deployment here. Because in the deployment that I had before, I started changing the code. Yeah, I think I messed up. Okay, my deployment, let's see. So my deployment.yaml over here, right? I took out a lot of I took out all the values and I added as environment variables, but I'm not done working on it. So if I run my script now, it's going to fail. So I'm just getting my script in a different directory. So I'll run it from there to show you guys. So I have my deployment here of my auth. Okay, I wasn't using this. I have my secret provider. Okay, see, I changed that and I have my service, which I changed. So I really don't want that now because I'm not done working on it. So, but what I am done working on is, and this, I can give you guys this code. It will work the same exact way in your environment, right? So I applied that Terraform and it created the infrastructure, created the Kubernetes cluster, which you guys can see here. And if I go into the cluster and I go to compute, it created the worker node. So that's what it's supposed to create, which is where that's what I'm saying, that when you create your infrastructure with Terraform, you should just use it to create your cluster and your worker node. You saw when I was trying to even create the config map with it, I'll start running into another error, which I didn't. The config map, I'll create that with my script. So this is what I was saying about that config map. See, I used a different IAM user to create the Kubernetes cluster, but I logged into my management console with a different user. And you can see here that this user does not have access to the cluster itself. You can see the cluster, right? This user is an admin. This user can see the cluster and I can even see the worker node. But you can see here the node itself, which this is the node that goes in this worker node. And in this node is where the pods are, the pods where your application will be hosted on. You won't have access to that. So you have access to the Kubernetes EKS infrastructure, which is the cluster. But in terms of what is in the apps that are running on the EKS, you won't have access to it. So in order to give access to this user, that's when we use the config map. So let me just make sure I have all the things I need here. So this is the config map that I'm going to use to give my user access. And this is just the ARN of the user that I'm currently logged in as. You see here, I'm logged in as Labi, right? So this is just the ARN of the user that I'm going to add in that config map. So I have that. I have my script here that I'm going to run, and my deployment file, my secret provider file. This is how EKS will be able to pull the secrets from Secret Manager, and my service. Okay. So here I'm just going to make sure that my deployment name. I don't think I changed anything here, so it should work. Where did it go? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the only thing I need to make sure is like my cluster name is that, the policy is there. So I think if I run this, it should work. Because normally when I start changing things, I should have done a copy of my file, but I didn't do that. So I'm going to save all.
A quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
Hope this script does not mind putting comment on the same line as on line 3, because I've seen situation where where that kind of affects the
Oh, like
script.
this?
Yes.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
And you can kind of like, and if it does, you will know, right? You see, one thing I like about Visual Studio Code is the color coding, right? So you can see anything that's comment is always green. So even if I put it here, you can see it's still green. So that's telling me that it's still a comment. Yeah. So I haven't think of use cases where it would affect it, because even in Terraform, you can do the same thing. So I can type my comment and it will still be comment. So I haven't think of use cases where that would so I think I have everything. My cluster name, the secret, the namespace that I'm going to call it. So these were all the things I had before. Okay. And I have my config file, my deployment file, my secret provider class file, and my service file. So I didn't change anything, so this should work. So now that my cluster is done, I'm just going to, I think this method is better because once you create your infrastructure, now, even if you are running this in CI/CD, you create your infrastructure with Terraform, then your CI/CD, the next build will just run your script that pretty much deploys the app on the Kubernetes cluster. So, hello, Ola. Check. I sent the invite. Sometimes it goes into the. Am I going to like the spam folder in your email? Check there, and if you don't see it, let me know. But you know what? I will resend it again. But I did send it, and sometimes it goes into the spam folder. Thank you, KVS. Okay, cool. I'll check my email. Thank you. I'll check my email today. So, okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run this deployment, this script. So one thing I did in this script is I told you guys about it. Like I added color code to the I added color code to the different lines that whatever is running, I want it to tell me what's currently running. And if it fails, it will be red. If it's green, I mean, if it's yellow, it's to tell me what is currently running. So that will be my deploy, the PS1. Nope, I copied the wrong one. This is not the script that I added that to. Oh, not this one. I'm running the wrong script, but it's okay. Because I just copied this one from my GitHub. So it's installing him now. I was verifying the CIS port. So it installed the CIS driver. And now it's doing the same thing here. So how do I know all these things to install? I got it from the AWS documentation, right? So if you go to their documentation, it will tell you, what to run. So I got this from the AWS documentation. So just if you Google how to deploy a simple app on EKS, AWS has a tutorial on it. And in that tutorial, they kind of like walk you through. So yeah, so it failed. So I have the wrong script. I wish I would have saved my script before I started modifying it. But I have it in my commit, right? I just need to get the right commit where I have the updated script. Let me check. I
So
mean,
is that this project is all about you're just deploying a simple app using EKS?
mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it
but I
any
but
different from what we have on the
no,
project?
I'm deploying the app we have on our project. It's actually the app we have for the assignment.
Oh, okay.
The Nest app. So this app does have a database too. It is migrating the data into RDS, and it is. Oh, you know what? I know what I can use to do it. So I'm not gonna do it in here because this. Let me just run my Terraform destroy because this is my code that I have here is still in work in progress. Like I said, I was changing things around, but I have another one that I sent to. Was Oben that I sent it to last week? Yeah, so I have that one. So I think Oben is here. Oben, when I tried that, run that script on my, it worked. I didn't get any error. The same error you were getting. So let me terminate this. This cluster. I'm just gonna run Terraform destroy. Another thing is when you guys are working on your project, try setting your Git commit in the beginning. I mean, setting up your repository. Make sure you start, like for example, if you're working on your Terraform code, create your repository in GitHub, clone it to your computer, and use that directory as your working directory. Then push your updates back. It is helpful. It is helpful because I've tested so many things that at some point certain things work, then I try to test another thing and that didn't work, right? If I need to revert back to the period when I was working on this project where something was working, I can go and look at my past commits and revert back to that commit. So in this particular directory that I'm working in, this didn't work because I've changed so many things around, so I need to, and my code is still work in progress, but I'm trying to like wing it, and that's why I'm running to that error. But I'll run it from a different directory now, and it should work because I have that code. I didn't mess with that code. So once this is done destroying, I'm going to your window. It is dynamic EKS. It was this. Yeah. Okay. So this is it. This is the one so in my deployment, I have my auth file. Let me change this now. I have my secret provider file, my service file, and my deployment file. Okay. And my deployment script, I have my cluster. All right, perfect. All right, so I'm just going to wait for this to be done. Then I'll run it again on that other directory. Okay, Ola, I'll send it to you again. Let me do it now. So what projects are you guys working on now? Are you guys working on any are you guys still working on your projects, or are you guys working on, I know Sean is working on different things. Sean, let me ask you, is there a reason why you are not applying yet? Because I feel like you know a lot. Or do you just want to, I think you've answered this question before, but I don't remember exactly. But I think I've asked you this question before.
Yeah, so I'm currently just trying to really scale up my skill set like to the level where and this may be something that I need to reconsider and think more about. And I'd love to hear your take on it. I'm just trying to build like an undeniable portfolio and an undeniable skill set level. So when I do put myself out there, that I attain employment that makes sense for me. Because currently at my job right now, I make pretty good money,
Okay.
and it's some of the offers that I have received, they were like significantly lower than what I currently make. And so I'm at a challenging place where like I'm trying to figure out, do I take a job making $30,000-$40,000 less than I'm making currently now just to get into cloud, or do I continue building these skill sets so I'd be more marketable for the kind of income that I need to, maintain my lifestyle. So, well, I love to hear your take on that, and give
Oh,
me.
so for you, you're already in a position, right? Is your current position, is it IT?
It has some. It's not complete IT, but it has some IT aspects of it.
Okay.
So Sean, what do you do right now?
I do something with rail control operations where it's like basically I control the trains and like I bring up the systems and stuff like that, monitor the systems.
Okay.
Okay. So I think so let me ask you this question. So, well, I guess it's not more of a question, but what I think is like sometimes, so I guess my own, what I'll say is like, since you know a lot, right? Why not? Do you feel like, what do you think about still just putting your resume out there? I think it will help if you put your resume out there, do interviews, right? So that way you also see what is out there. Then while you are working on all these different things that you are trying to learn, right? You'll get some feedbacks on things you can adjust. And also you might end up getting a position that would be the right fit, and you just take it and you continue to do the same thing you are doing, which is building your skill sets. So I really feel like building your skill sets wouldn't um it's not going to end anytime soon, because even when you get that job, you're still going to continue to do that. So why not try now? Because I always feel like if you want your job today, you have to start like 3 months ago. Because you know how just the economy is, different things, there's just a bunch of moving pieces that we don't have control over. So I really just don't want you spending too much time, but it's your own personal preference. But I don't want you spending too much time on learning when you could be in the position and you can be making the money and still continue to do the same thing you are doing.
Yeah,
So that was an advice someone gave me because I'm kind of like you. I'm a lot like in the beginning, that was the same thing. My wife was telling me then, you know a lot now, apply. And I was like, no, I need to learn this too. I need to learn this too. And I kept learning, I kept learning. Then one day I spoke to someone that was already in the field. And just from having conversation with me, it's like, man, guy, you know a lot already. Just from having conversation with me. And there was also another person that got a job that someone introduced me to. It's like this person got a job. Talk to this person so they can tell you what they did and all that stuff. And I was talking to that person. A lot of the stuff that I was saying, the person didn't even know. So
yeah,
I think it's worth the try, honestly.
that's why I defer to you. And I'm gonna take that into consideration. I think I am gonna go with that. Um, and I'm having some of the same experiences. Like I talk to different people, and they're like, "Wow, you know too much. You know a lot. Why you holding off?" Um, so I am gonna make some adjustments.
Yeah.
So I was just worried about the market too. Like it seems like a lot of people getting laid off, a lot of things are moving, and then I was considering too. What direction I wanted to take it. Was I going to go like into government, kind of like what I'm doing now, or would I stay in private sector, go to the private sector? So there's a lot of things that I'm trying to pull back. Maybe I could talk to you on a private call one day, but I mean
Yeah,
that's
sure, sure,
figuring
sure,
that out.
sure. Yeah. And so you guys, if you feel you know enough where you've worked on different things and you can back it up, you can speak on it, don't waste too much time. Just go for it. You'll be
Yeah,
surprised.
yeah. As is with that being said, I was gonna with you talking about speaking now, it just brought back to me something I was gonna bring up within this meeting,
Go ahead.
and it's more so about the reality of things. Okay, let's look at the reality of things now. For some of us who are actually doing this, trying to get into this, like myself, Sean, and other people who have jobs that are not related to what we're doing, but we're putting in the work just so we get a sense of like, hey, for me in my area, I know for sure cloud is way better in terms of like the money that you make. And I also feel the intensity of the work that I do. I write reports as I'm talking to you now, probably I've got like 8 tickets on my desk that I need to do. And it's not because I deal with Epic, and Epic is really good, the software, because I deal with like um, clinical data and all that stuff. I work for a hospital up in New Hampshire remotely. Um, they need patient information and all that stuff, right? Code off of SQL, and you get into Epic to pull just one data point, man. It will take you forever. More so if they're dealing with like flow sheets, SDs, wherein they put like patient information as to the vitals and all that stuff. When you're dealing with that type of report, it's like it feels like it's hell. The key thing for me is trying to get away from that is one, there isn't that much money, to be honest, in that area for the type of work that you do, how much effort you put in. That's the reason. So I get into your stuff now. It makes a lot of sense, and I'm I've done the projects, and I'm pretty much gonna start all over again. The reason why I'm gonna do that is because it's looking for that why. Why is Aziz doing this? Why is he bringing this? So I can start from let's just go to the genesis of everything. Simply deploying a static website. I know I got to create a VPC, enable DNS hostname on that VPC, create an IGW internet gateway, and why an internet gateway is just so resources within the public subnet can access the internet, attach that to the VPC, and start building the subnets, um, two availability zones, two public subnets, that pretty much sits on there, and then you get the 4 private subnets, two that hold your web servers and the ones that hold your database as well. In light of the static deploying the static website, you don't need the databases, and you get your route tables that route traffic for you. You use the NAT gateway to be able to route traffic, the resources in your public subnets to be able to talk to the outside world and all that stuff. And then the public ones do route traffic using the internet gateway. And that's the reason why you would say a resource is public and one is private, is because how they route, which route tables they use to access information, how resources within your private subnets can download packages or do any form of like updates. Understanding all that why, then
Mm-hmm.
put in your security groups, which are like firewalls to ensure traffic within your VPC.
Mm-hmm.
You've got three of them, the LB, the ECI, EC security group, and then you have your app server security group, which you configure the right way to be able to access traffic and all that stuff. And then once you do all of that, you tend to create your EC2 endpoint, connect endpoints, you do test that, create an EC2 within your private subnet, get a test of like, hey, I'm actually seeing stuff now. I can access something that I built. I can put something into that room and be able to see, yes, I can see, get into it and get out. And then obviously you kill that EC2 instance. You now think of getting your security groups onto that. And then you want to see the application now. That's when you go ahead and get your application load balancer because it does like the traffic balance for you. And what's the reason for why do we need an application load balancer? It's because we need to be able to see the application. How does it work? It works in a way you create a target group and then put EC2 instances into that. And then you SSH into that EC2 instance and deploy the application code in there, which you get off of GitHub and all that stuff. And your application is running now. You take the DNS host name. You're able to see your application. Voila, it's good. It's looking nice. But is that the way you want users to access it? No. That's why you get into now setting up an A record and A list in Route 53 and do all the necessary configurations. Then you can give the users like the www website stuff, a record onto them so they can access the website. Then you're looking at, okay, now they can see it. It's looking good, but it's not secured. So that's the reason why Aziz is like, okay, we need to add another listener to the application load balancer because the listeners in application load balancer will push you, will forward traffic to the target groups that you created when you were creating the ELB. And that's how you push users from being accessing a website that's not secured, making it secured, creating another listener, which is the HTTPS one, and then create a certificate, SSL certificate and certificate manager. You're able to do all of that good stuff. Now they can access the website securely. Now your next step is like, hey, okay, now this thing is working fine, but what if I'm just using just one server somewhere, sitting somewhere, and if something goes wrong. So next thing that comes to your mind, okay, now let's try to scale this thing in a way that is resilient, it's fault tolerant and all that stuff. You're thinking of auto scaling now. Then you start creating the auto scaling group. You do all of that good stuff and your application is running now in two availability zones. It's all working fine. No one can, nothing can happen to it that would make it go bad. Now, if something was to happen, it would run by itself, kick everything in, and then start. So that's kind of like a nutshell of the project. Understanding what exactly Aziz is doing, and I'm able to use that to, if I went into an interview, to be able to talk about it, which is the reality of me being able to go in there and explain myself. And then I know from that point it gets to using different tools now, going into creating something that's dynamic, that comes with a database, how you bring that piece in there. And then we're looking at, okay, now let's containerize this stuff using Docker. And then let's try to see build infrastructure using Terraform and all that stuff. You get to Kubernetes and all that good stuff. So the question that I have, being able to explain it, yes, I can get a job. I can talk to someone, make sense. They understand that, okay, he fully knows what he's doing and all that good stuff. But the key thing is, which you always emphasize is, I can do that now, but if I don't extensively do these things in a way that I make mistakes, I understand that there are mistakes in there, I build from that, you can get a job and still not be able to keep the job. So that's the reality. So I feel like, you know what, hey, I need to get back to start doing all this stuff again. You can do a project one time, even two times, and you feel confident and stuff. But to be honest, it takes a lot more than that. Because look at what you're doing now, you're seeing errors in what you're doing. That's kind of like, I feel like the part that takes the longest. Maybe that's what something like Sean was talking about. Hey, it's not that I don't know, but you feel like, yeah, even when you know, there's still some stuff in there that would, will come up, and yeah, if you haven't like kind of like leave making the errors or making the mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
it takes a lot. So that's kind of like where I'm at. I'm like, okay, yes, you can talk about it now. You can talk about the networking and all that stuff. You can talk about why these pieces come together. Because for me, when I listen to your videos, it's more like, okay, yes, he's doing this, but why is he doing this? So I pay attention and like, okay, this is the reason why he's doing this. And once you get that why, you know how to talk about it and be able to. So my thing to you is now, hey, I can talk about it. I can, elaborate on it and be confident in an interview. But if does it take more than that, which is true, which is something that I know. But from your perspective, from what I just said, what is it looking like now from what you just heard from me?
I mean, it sounds like you have a good understanding
Yeah. This
of pretty
understanding is
much
awesome.
what we've done. I mean, you explained the whole architecture, right? And you've already explained the entire architecture, the services we are using in it and why we are using those services. So that part is done. Really, even when you start a job, you guys will find that understanding the architecture is actually much difficult than the technology they are using itself. Because if you understand the architecture, you can figure out the technology. Because now that you have AI too, I'm trying to do this, how do I do it? But when you come in and they give you the architecture and they say, we are using this, we are using that, this gets data from here, it does this with the data, you know, that's the first thing they give you, understand the architecture. So what you just done down, you explain the entire architecture. That's the first thing. So now the next part is, how can I deploy this architecture using the different DevOps tools? That is really how I really started, and that's how I use one concept, which is why you see us working on the same application. We work on one application, and we use that application, and we deploy that application in AWS using different tools, different DevOps tools. So that will be the next step. You already explained it that way now. Because this is what I always say during my interview. I was like, yeah, I've deployed. I'll say the same exact thing you just said, right? Summarize the architecture. And I'll say, I can deploy this architecture using Docker, ECS, Terraform, CloudFormation, any DevOps tools you name, I can deploy the application using that. Then that's when they go into the specifics of, okay, you say you can use Terraform. What is this? Then they may ask you some question on Terraform, right? So you know the architecture, honestly. So I'll say for you, Daniel, is more of like focusing more on like the DevOps tool side, right? So I'm not sure how much you've done with like the Docker, understanding how to write your Docker file, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I've done
uh,
those as well. I know how to do it.
Terraform,
Yeah.
right? Terraform module. Those are the things. If you do more of those things, trust me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the module is what is really complicated. It's so complicated.
It's really not, honestly.
Really?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's just
I just say that though.
it's not. Okay, I have a module here, right? So there's just a rule. When you work on Terraform module, I want you to write down a rule, right?
Okay. Okay.
So Terraform module comes in different flavor, right? All Terraform module is saying is that there's a bunch of, it could be one Terraform code, it could be two, it could be 100. All you are saying is that there's some codes in a directory that I want to use to build something, right? So in this case, you can see in this case, I'm using Terraform module here. Instead of in the actual Terraform module course that I have, we have different modules. All these services are broken down into their own individual module. But here, I've put all these services in one directory. So that means if I call this module, it is going to create every single thing that is here. There's no way for me to, if you want to isolate it where you say you want to create just VPC, right? Then you have to put the VPC in its own directory. So when the module calls it, the module will call the VPC directory. Does that make sense?
It does. I think it's just from I can do the normal Terraform, but when it come to the module part, I haven't taken deep look into it yet, to be
Okay.
honest. So maybe that's why it's a little bit just
Yeah. So the first part is you are calling something, you are calling a bunch of Terraform configuration that is in one directory. So like I was explaining, if you have a bunch of them here, like the way I have it, it will create everything that is here. Or if you have just the VPC here, it will only create the VPC. So the next thing you need to, the next rule is in whatever directory you are calling your source from, right? Which now, if you look at my Terraform project, right? You can see my source is calling infrastructure EKS, right? Infrastructure EKS, which will create everything in here. So the next rule is this is a must. In whatever directory you are calling your source, whatever is listed under the variables in that directory, every single variables that's listed, that is what you add under after your source. You understand? So if let me move this down a little bit so you can see. So you can see this is my module that is calling this, right? And this is my variables file that is there. Watch, right? Environment. That's why I even add the comment so you can kind of like match it to each other, right? Environment, account ID, region, project name, environment, project directory. Then we come to the VPC variables, right? VPC cider, right? You see, so whatever module you are calling, just go to the variables file in that module, right? Copy it and come and paste it under your source. Then you just need to remove the variable and remove the extra stuff, and it will just be strictly the name.
Okay.
Then here you give it the value it's supposed to be, right? So here you can see VPC cider. I just gave it my VPC cider. So because for this project, you are giving it the actual value it will be for this project. Because let's say you are calling that same module for a different project, right? Your VPC cider may be something else. It might be 10.0.2.2, right? So for this specific project, you give it the value. So once you've listed all the variables here, then you start giving it the value. And that's all Terraform module is.
Okay. I'll take a stab at it again. But like I said, I mean, for me, it's more so like
I understand. Yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of like it was confusing for me in the beginning. So
yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say it's not really, but if you
It's like you watching the video multiple times and then you're like, okay, yeah, this is why this piece is come into play. So I think that's what I need to get to.
Yeah. So and the only other thing you need to know is with module is if you create a module, right? Let's say I have multiple directories here. Let's say I use this module to create something. Then another, for example, this module will create my VPC. Then I'm trying to create an EC2 instance that is not part of this module, but I want to create the EC2 instance in this VPC, right? You know, when you create an EC2 instance, one of the things it will ask you is, what is the subnet ID?
Yes.
What subnet of VPC do you want to create the EC2 instance in, right? So since you want to create the EC2 instance in this VPC, right, you would have to export the ID of the VPC out of this module so the other resource that you are trying to create can use it.
Yes.
That's the only other complicated part of Terraform module that gets people confused, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just simple. Like you say, you have your output file. This is output file is what you use to export a particular thing. So here you can see I said output and I gave the output a name. The name can be anything you want to call it, right? But you will call it something that when you look at it, you know what you are outputting, right? So here we have output account ID, and I'll just give it the value,
Okay.
right? The value in this case, account ID is whatever I call variable account ID that I create. Let's look at one that is resource specific. So you can see here, I'm exporting the name of my EKS cluster. So the value will be the resource type, the reference name, and the attribute of that cluster, which is name. So if you look here in my EKS cluster, right? Right? This is where I'm creating my EKS cluster, right? So I'm trying to output the name of this cluster, right? The value of that will be the resource type, which is what you see here, the reference name, dot the reference name, which is what you see here, dot the attribute. So anytime you guys are creating any resource in Terraform, which is why I said understanding the documentation standpoint is very important. So for every resource you create, they have what we call attributes. Every resource has its own attribute, things like ARN, name, ID, or whatever it is, right? So for every resource, if you want to know the attributes that comes with a resource, copy this like this. Then let's go to Google, and this is how I get it. I'll paste it in Google. And I'll go to the documentation. You can see when I pasted, it gave me the exact one, which is here, right? The EKS cluster, that's where I pasted, right? So I'll click on that one. So on this left side, you can see the different sections of this AWS EKS cluster. So I want to see what attributes does this have. It means that when you create the cluster, what are attributes what are the settings it will have? It will have a name, it will have an ID, it will have an ARN, it will have this thing. So if you want to know all the attributes that comes with this cluster, right? You just come to attribute reference here, and it will give you the attributes here, right?
Okay.
So you can see under it, if you create that EKS cluster, it will have an ARN, it will have a certificate authority, it will have a cluster ID, it will have created ad, it will have endpoint ID, identity, all these things, right? It will have all these things. I'm looking for the name. So the name
Can
is
you do a
not.
Control F on this page and just type name?
You can do Control
Yeah,
F, but
that's
sometimes it might give you right.
it's just the ID.
So you see here, they call it ID, but typically it will be typically it will be the same. Typically this is the only use time you will see where in my code I called it name, but it's ID. But I guess Terraform understanding Terraform didn't throw any error, right?
Okay.
So you can see this ID is what I'm exporting. So here, instead of saying name, I can even say ID, and it will do the same exact thing. You understand? So that is how you really work with it. It does take time in the beginning, and it does take time in the beginning, but I guarantee you, once you dedicate the time to it and you understand the rules of what's going on, you'll be fine. So let me just write down real quick the rules for you, right?
Okay.
So the rules you need to understand is what do you know what a resource type is?
Yes.
Right. So Terraform rules. These are things you guys need to study with Terraform. Terraform rules. What is resource type? What is? So let me just do what is, right? Resource type arguments, attributes, variables, um, outputs, date file, mm, I'll add this to a data source. So I think to start, these are the things you just need to, okay, another one here, reference name. Reference name. So if you guys watch in the beginning of my Terraform project, this is like the kind of like the first thing I go with. Like I'll explain to you guys, right?
Right.
So once you understand what these things are, so how you all you need to do is use an EC2 instance, for example. Really, how I understood a lot of Terraform stuff is I started with just one resource, right? So I think I have a code here where I'm creating an EC2 instance, right? This is the code, right? So I'll copy this code. You'll copy this code, paste it here, right? So start now matching this to what this code is, right? So in this simple syntax, what is a resource type here? What is a reference name? What is an argument? What is a variable? If you can see any. This doesn't have all of it. So here I can tell you in this code, this is a resource type. This is a reference name. This is an argument. And this is a variable. And this is an attribute. Right. And how do you know what you pick for this? It's very simple. In the beginning, this is exactly what I did. You go to the management console. That's what I'm saying. Some of these things, especially Terraform, is really not something. In the beginning, it will require you to it would require a lot of your time. But I'm telling you, once you learn it one time, you pretty much, it's only hard work you have to do one time. Then after that, everything it can become second nature. So if you are trying to create a resource with Terraform, you don't know what to pick, right? You go to the console, let's say it's an EC2 instance, I'll launch an EC2 instance. Here, you can see the EC2 instance. The first thing it's asking me for is a name and a tag, right? Let me put this side by side so you can see. It's asking me for a name and a tag, right? A name and tags, right? So you can see here, name and tag. So that's why you go and look for the attribute, you go and look for the argument tag. So the argument, when I say what is an argument here, arguments are equivalent to whatever setting you are seeing in the console. So whatever setting you see in the console here, there will be an argument for it in Terraform for that resource.
Okay.
So you just go find it. So in the console, you're saying, I'm seeing a name here. Okay, let me go and find this EC2 documentation. I'm going to find this. This is what you have to do in the beginning. There's no way around it. Like if you really just want to understand it, you go and find it, right? Right there, that's the documentation. I'll click on it, right? So I'm saying name in the console. Then I'll just come here to argument reference because I know it's an argument. Then I'll just scroll down here and I'll look for name, right? And you see in the console, it is saying name or tag. So if you don't see name, typically in the documentation, they don't probably include the name. So it's going to be under tags. So here you just go to, you can do Control F tags. right? Because it's going to show up a lot. That's why I don't like doing the control F, because it will pick up a lot of
Yeah,
things
a
here.
lot for you to.
But tags is here, right? So that is how we get that one. Then let's scroll down. Once we add our name, the next thing is our image ID, AMI, right? So you see, that's why I have AMI here, right? So if you go in the documentation, you look for AMI. You can go back to your argument reference. AMI is right here. And a lot of the stuff, it might not be the same exact name as what's in the console, but it will have the definition here, which is what you will read. So that's how we get the AMI. So you say, okay, I'm going down, I've added my AMI. So what else did I add in this EC2 console? The next thing I'm adding here is my instance type. Then you go to the documentation. If you don't know the argument, okay. Yeah, I just type. I always start to type with what I'm seeing in the console because that's the closest thing. Instance type, right? So let's say right here, instance type. And that is why you see that there, right? Then in the console, you scroll down again, key pair, right? If you go here, key name. That's if you want to use, I don't have key pair in mind because I'm not using key pair, I'm using an endpoint. But if you want to use the key pair, that's what you do here, right? So, and you can see for some of these things, if it has optional, it means that you don't have to use it. If you don't use it, Terraform will just assume that you don't want it and it's not going to fail, right?
Right.
The next one is the network portion, right? And if you click here, edit, the thing you see is just VPC, right? So yeah, but really you don't have to do VPC. Which here in the Mac console we do VPC, but then we select our subnet. But by adding your subnet ID, it already knows in what VPC that subnet ID is. So that's why in Terraform you don't have to. So you come to the argument reference, you look for the argument for subnet. Then you just keep going down here. Whatever settings you are picking, you try to add the same setting in Terraform. Then you run your apply. If it fails, it will tell you why it fails. And you keep working with it that way until eventually you're just going to master it.
Cool, makes sense now. Okay. It's just like I said, the Terraform module part, when you're talking about, like the output, the resource, how you bring them together, because I haven't watched that much,
Yeah,
watched over and over again. But like
yeah,
the basic Terraform, I do have an understanding of that. Docker,
yeah,
I
sure,
do.
sure,
Yeah, the architecture as well. I know once you create
sure.
all your stuff, create a Docker file and do all of that, push to ECR, and then you run your application. So yeah, I just need more time to play with it, and
Yeah, it's just you just need more time. The more time you spend with it, you trust me, you understand. It does take time. In the beginning, like I said, one project took me probably like a month to just do one project because
wow.
I was just going line for line, adding each line one by one to make sure that's really, and since I've done it then, I don't have to do any Terraform project like that anymore. If I want to do Terraform now, I just start by telling ChatGPT or Claude to write me a Terraform code on something. Then I will start modifying what I need to modify in it.
Yeah.
That's how I write my code now. So I've created this cluster, right? Let me run the deployment again. So this is the script I created, right? This script is I added color code to it. So this should work. So I'm just going to run this script. Chad, if you want to start, please check the link in this video's description. You'll see the link to sign up there. So you can see when I'm applying the script, I've color coded setting different part of the script that it is running the command to let me know what is currently running. So you can see here, verify my AWS credential, updating my kubeconfig file, creating my auth, right? Then right now it is over here where it is installing my secret store driver. So it is done, verifying the CIS driver ports. So this is just verifying. Now it is setting up my OIDC provider, right? So it's working on that. Right. Just wait for that to be done. And this, all this color coding, this is something I included in the script myself. Because when you saw the first one, when I ran, it was all white and I couldn't see what's going on. So sometimes in your script, if it's going to be running multiple commands, it's best to add color code to it. So that way you can see exactly what is running at any particular time. So you can say it is done, created my service, it created my service account. That is done. Then I apply my deployment file and then apply my service file. And now it is done running the command. I didn't get any error. So I apply my service file and gave me this load balancer, right? So now if I go into my management console, EKS cluster, my EKS cluster is here. So now you can see if I go here and I'm just going to refresh, you can see I'm no longer getting that IAM. User does not have access because I used the config to add this user that I'm currently logging as to have access to the cluster. So now if I go to the compute and see my node is here, and if I click on this node, you can see my pod is here. The main thing you want to check is once you run the deployment, you want to come to your pod here. You can see my deployment is the Nest app. I call the Nest app deployment. You want to make sure that it is running, which it says running here. And that's all we want. I don't see anything failing here. Then all we need to do now is, and this is, I'm going to work on automating this part, but I haven't worked on it yet. So all I need to do now is go and create my record set. So I'm just going to, first I'm going to go to my load balancer. Because when you run your service manifest file, it will create the load balancer for you, which is how the pods in your Kubernetes is exposed. People can access it. The same thing we do with the other application, right? But so my load balancer is here. And the main thing I want to do with this load balancer is I'm going to change the listener to from the listener is currently on HTTP. I'll check whether I can set this up in the beginning when I apply my service so I don't have to manually come here and change it. I haven't looked into that yet. So I would, for this load balancer, I'm going to add a new listener on HTTPS. But because I'm using a network load balancer, it's called TLS there. Then I'll forward it to my Kubernetes target group. Then here I'll add my certificate, my ACM certificate, and I'll click add. And the thing about network load balancer is since I add the SSL, since I add the 443 TLS, I don't need this one. So you can delete the one on port 80. Now confirm. Now, if I go to Route 53.
So in this case, you just delete instead of redirecting.
Yeah, exactly. Because for network, you need to delete it. So it's not like the application one. If it's application load balancer, you redirect, but for network, you delete. So now if I go to Route 53, and I'm going to add a record in my create a record here. The same thing we've been doing, alias to network load balancer. And I'll select my region, US East Virginia. And I'll see the network load balancer there, select it, create record. And the record is there. So now I should be able to access my application, really. So, so now let me just select this record. First of all, let me see if it is. It should probably be created now. So I just copy it, right? And let me come here. I'll paste it here. And there you go. That's my application. And deploy on Kubernetes, EKS. So this is 95% done with Terraform. Well, everything is done with Terraform. Deploying the cluster, and the worker node. Then I use my script to deploy the application on my cluster. Then the only other thing I need to modify is launching it with my TLS listener when I run it, and also adding a record set in Route 53.
And use the module, Terraform module to deploy, right?
Yeah, I use
Okay.
Terraform module. Yeah.
Okay.
That's pretty dope, V's. That's cool. Like it.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So if you guys want access to this code, I can give you. You can run this code in your environment. It will work the same exact way. But watch the Kubernetes, the EKS project that we did. Make sure the dependencies in the beginning, things you need to install on your computer. Make sure you have those installed. As long as those are installed, you can run this on your system and it will work the same exact way. Yeah. So that's what I'm working on now. I just need to keep modifying it to make it as automated as it can be, because I don't want any part of it to be manual. So you guys, so the manual things that I had to do now is deleting adding the listener and adding the record set. I can easily fix that either in my script or in Terraform. So yeah. So once it's done, I'll definitely I'll give you guys the code so you guys have access to it. So when it comes to learning Kubernetes, this is as far as I would. I mean, once I have the app running, I'll look into other features that I can add to the cluster, um, implement that in. But I feel like if you know this, you know a lot, because even at your company, this is a lot of companies are using EKS this way. Even when I looked at AWS tutorial on how to deploy a simple EKS app, this is how they did it. Not with Terraform, but the deployment part of it. This is how they did it. All right. I know we are time. So does anyone else have any question before we go?
Yeah,
Hi, Aziz.
yeah, we talked about yeah, I missed your call yesterday and stuff. So can we
No,
talk
sorry.
after the meeting?
Yeah, sorry, I missed your call too when you called me. So it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk. Oh, who else was saying something?
Yeah,
That
it's
was. Go ahead.
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Aziz. I've been working on this GitHub Actions project. So I'm currently at the point I'm supposed to create a Docker image and push it to ECR. However, I've been encountering this problem or error. It's talking about something about version. I don't know if I'm getting something wrong,
Oh,
but
okay.
I've tried and tried.
I think I know the issue you have in there. So you
Yeah.
say when we we launched the EC2 instance and we SSH into it and we installed Docker and we used the EC2 instance to create an AMI.
Yes.
I know in that project I told you guys on the video I said use Linux too, but the GitHub Actions we are using, so they've updated it. So now you use 2023, not 2. That's the issue. That's
All
what's
right.
causing the issue.
Thank
So
you.
just redo that part. Launch your another EC2 instance using 2023, connect to it, install the Docker and stuff like that, create your AMI, then update your AMI, your pipeline, and run it again.
All right. Thank you very much.
No
That's all.
problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm running that. I'm running to that too. So when I did do that, it was saying that my IP was offline. When you go to the GitHub Actions, and you go to Actions, and you looking at the runner, it was saying it was offline. So what I did was I deleted it, did it again, and deleted the IP, and now I don't get anything. It's like something is not read.
So with your GitHub runner, that the self-hosted runner we are creating,
right?
that
Mm-hmm.
will create an EC2 instance. So
It
as
it it
so
didn't even create the EC2.
so you have to and is your job passing? Is your job failing or is your job being successful?
No, my job is failing.
Okay.
If I can share my screen,
All
I
right.
can
Yeah,
I can.
sure.
These,
You
but
can't share screen while other particulars are sharing. Okay,
Okay,
all right.
so let me stop sharing. All right, so sorry, who was saying something?
no, I was quickly saying, I know you're doing that. Far as when you got that Kubernetes set up, when you said automate, what would you do? Like, you would do stuff with Vault or something like that? Like, how would you automate that? How we could talk about it later because you
So
do that.
how do I automate my Kubernetes deployment?
Yeah, how would you do
So
it?
I'll probably use like a CI/CD pipeline.
Okay,
I was when ChatGPT was telling me yesterday, it was saying that most people that the common practices out there is they use GitOps, which I don't know exactly what that
I've,
is.
I've been reading about it. Go ahead though.
GitOps and Argo CD,
Mhm.
Helm. Those are some of the popular tools out there that it was saying that companies use for deployment of the Kubernetes resources, right?
Okay,
But
cool.
but it says like on a simple scale, you can use a CI/CD pipeline. So I can use something like a GitHub Actions that anytime I make a commit, right, to my repository, it kicks off the pipeline and reapplies. You understand?
Okay, yeah,
So yeah, that would be like a simple way I will automate it. Yeah,
cool. Thanks.
no problem.
Hi, Aziz.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Before I step out, the last time we met, was it last Saturday? I thought you were saying something that you we might meet on Wednesday. I don't know if I got it wrong. I sent you a message.
Oh, no. So that was Daniel that wanted to meet with me on Wednesday.
Oh, okay,
It was
okay,
just
okay,
one
okay.
person. Yeah. So
Oh,
we
okay.
typically meet on Saturday, but if you want to meet with me anytime during the week, then just let me know so we schedule a time to
Oh,
talk.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So
okay. Okay,
yeah,
thank you so much.
no problem, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So why do you have one runner there that says like start runner? And then that was from last week. Then you have the one you just add is the first one at the top that's failing.
Well,
So it seems
the
like you still have something that that's kind of running. Please select that one. Let me see. So cancel that workflow. All right. So go back to your main pipeline. Go back to your, yeah, just click summary. No, just click summary up there. Summary, they say where it has the house.
mm-hmm. That's it.
No, click actions. Sorry. Click actions up there. Then select the add one. That's the first one. So that's the last one you just committed. So let's see. No, the first one. That's the last one you committed. So scroll down. So it's saying invalid workflow. Did you change anything in your pipeline?
Only thing I changed it was the EC2. when we changed it from I think in the console from 2 to
Okay,
3.
it says line 284. Let's go and look at line 284 on your file.
All right.
I think you have some misconfiguration in there. That's why it's throwing an error. See right there. Scroll up. Scroll up. I think I see something. So scroll up a little bit. Never mind. Go down. So scroll up, scroll up. I see something and might not necessarily be no, it's not. Scroll. It's just your screen. This is my screen. Scroll down. Let's go to 284. Let's see what it's saying there. $284. It says unexpected. Let me go to click on that GitHub actions. Let me see. Workflow. It's saying just pretty much saying that your workflow file is not valid. So it's saying unexpected symbol. So scroll out. Let me see so I can read that error 100%.
If
Okay.
you take a look at the 284, there's like a pipe that's standing in front of that. Maybe that's affecting it.
No,
Okay.
no, that should. So I think he has like a typo somewhere. So you see where it says echo web file. Look in that line.
Yes, I can see there's no double
Closing
quote,
bracket.
closing quote. Yes, there's no closing quote.
Yeah. Echo web files. So where do you have the echo web file? Line 288.
I can't see.
You do have it, right? So let me
I do
just
have it.
see. Let me just compare it to mine, but you have a typo in there somewhere. That's why it's giving you that error.
I got it. I got it from up here.
Hmm?
I say I got that from
Yeah,
up here.
but when you were pasting it, that's the thing about YAML. When you paste YAML syntax, your indentation has to be the same. Because if your indentation is off, it will throw an error.
Okay.
So say you got it from there, but then when you were pasting it, you probably pasted it the wrong way.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, just a second. Uh, let me see my code if I still have it. Line 284. All right, so personal access token, personal access token, that. And it might not, excuse me, it might not even be there. It might even be on something else. Oh man. Let me see. It's gonna be, unless if I compare your file to mine.
I know only one thing probably be off when comparing your file to mine. When
Comment out your line. You haven't been able to build your image, right? So I
no.
wouldn't add all the other codes at the bottom. That's what I'm saying. Like do the part where do the part that you are working on. So in adding all those other stuff, it will just complicate a lot of stuff.
Okay. All right. So you
So
want
comment out which part are you on you on the building your image, right?
mm-hmm.
So after this job, comment out the codes under it. Not here. Go down to the next build job, but like
create environment file.
line 268 all the way to the end. Comment those out for now. you can just do, you can just do, so when I say comment out, you can do, when you select everything like that, you can do Control/. So press Control Z again. Right now, press Control/.
Control.
Control and / key. There you go.
Okay.
All right. So now save that and push it. Let's see if you get any error. Did you push it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Now select that one. So as you can see that that one is working. So there's some type, there is a typo on the jobs under it. Right. That's
Right.
the thing with YAML syntax, right? If one indentation is off, just all you need is one. Just one line somewhere to be off is going to throw an error.
Gotcha.
So
But
when you copy my code, right?
mm-hmm.
So go to the repository where you copy my code from. Let me show you something.
Shit. No, it's not in there. I did.
So it will probably be yeah, so creating the app service providers. Okay, yeah. So let's do that one. Yeah, copy that one. That's the next job, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go to the repository.
So
Oh
not
no,
that one.
that's another one. Yeah.
No, that ain't it. Hold on.
I think it's the one above it. The CI/CD, yeah, down. All right, yeah. So what job was the next one? So the next one was like, so after building your Docker image, the next one is export env variables, right? That one. Above where your mouse is, yeah. So what you do, so show me, how do you copy this?
Copy it.
Perfect. Right. Then when you go back to your Visual Studio Code,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Go right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think is enter. I think you press enter 3 times. You say I'll come all the way to the end,
Mm-hmm.
put it right there, and paste.
Exactly. So that's how you paste it, because then that's how you'll be able to keep the format.
Right.
But there's a typo somewhere in that one. The one you paste under. That's why it's giving you that error. You saw that when we commented out, you didn't get that error anymore.
Right.
There's
Right.
something rough there. So I will repaste it there and redo that part.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. But it's not but when I do that, it's still not so
So
basically what you're saying,
let's address
it's not
so
giving me it'll run everything, but it'll give me the app, but it won't give me the image. And that's what I was looking for is the image in my console. Because I know we're using this with Terraform, right?
yeah, right. So let's look at your pipeline, right? Let your pipeline run, then we'll see. So it's creating the ECR repository and it's starting your self-hosted runner.
And you say it was supposed to give me an EC2, and it didn't even give me an EC2. And when I went to settings, at first it did, but I took it out. And then when I try to run it again,
Settings,
it wouldn't.
you went to settings where?
I think you went. I think how you said it, and looking at I think it was the runner,
Mm-hmm.
and right here I deleted it because I thought it was getting in the way, and at first it had an IP address, but it was offline, and then I went into my console. It
Yeah,
was
but
there.
yeah, so all the runners you create, they will be there, but then when you delete it, it will show off offline. That's fine.
Okay,
Because it's not just one time. Every single time you run it, it will create. It's not the same runner it's creating every single time. It's different runners, right?
okay, but
So when you delete it,
mm-hmm,
that runner you created at that particular time will be offline. Then when you create it again, another runner will be created, right?
right,
Let's let this run. Let's let that job finish, right? So go there, go to your actions. Let that job finish. Then we'll see. As long as it say it did create the run self-hosted runner, right? Go to that build image.
build image right here.
Build and push that job, right? So the job is running, right? This job is scroll up a little bit, scroll up to the beginning. The beginning of this thing. Right. You know what? Let's just even look in your YAML file. Right. Scroll up here to the beginning of that job. No, not all the way to the beginning, but sorry. I meant like to the beginning of that job itself, that build, and
Okay,
I want to see the runner you are using. So here, stop here. Right. So here you are using run on self-hosted. Yeah, so it's working.
yeah,
It's
I'm
working.
I'm using the self-hosted.
You're using the self-hosted, right? And your job is currently running. So that means it's running on your self-hosted runner. So it is working.
Okay, all right.
Because if it wasn't running, if your EC2 wasn't, your runner wasn't there or whatever, it wouldn't run at all. You would just get an error. Because it's
All right.
running on something now and it is showing here that it's your self-hosted runner.
Okay, all right. Can
So
I go
go,
check out? Can I
go
check out my my EC2? Because you say it's supposed to give me
okay,
uh
go to your EC2 console. Let's see. Hello, Chame. Look in this video's description. You'll find the link there. If you just want to do just the
there it
Terraform
is.
course, if you
There
just
it
want to
is.
do the Terraform course, you will see the link there. But if you want to join this program too, you will also see the link there. But you said you want to join the Terraform course. So if it's just Terraform you want to do, you'll see the link there. Thank you, Daniel. I'll see you next time. Yeah, so Daniel called me after class. I mean, I have to go get my son, but you can call me, we can talk. That's fine. Yeah, so it's there.
It is there. And then I had another problem with my snapshots. I have a couple of them with the same name, and I try to delete them. They don't want to let me delete them. They ain't letting me delete it. I think I have to build the other part to delete all
No,
everything.
you should be
To
able to delete your snapshot. So maybe if you're using it, you can delete it. Thanks, Alex. Actually, you're quiet today. Is everything going on well? Or maybe you're busy doing something. It
No, no, sorry.
sounds like
Yeah,
you're just listening in today.
I was just listening in today. I was a
Okay.
bit, I haven't been since 2 weeks because I
Yeah, I
had
noticed that.
surgery on my back, so I'm still not feeling
Oh, how are you
100%.
feeling now? Hold on, Dylan, don't delete anything yet. Yeah, how are you feeling now?
Yeah, I'm recouping. So yeah, I'm just
Are you able to move around?
yeah, for the past 2 weeks, no, but yeah, I'm feeling a bit better today actually. It's just
Okay.
the drugs, like the drugs they give you just makes you very lethargic and everything.
Yeah, I see, yeah.
I mean, but yeah, hopefully next week I'll be back to my normal self.
Okay, cool. Yeah, hang in there, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right. So Dylan, if you want to know, so your snapshot, I'm thinking you can delete any snapshot you want. So, right, before you delete it, you can look at the date you created it so you know which one was the latest one you created.
right. I create them all of them on a
So keep scrolling. That's the started date. So scroll to the, then I think should be like a created date there. Or if there isn't, skip scrolling.
no.
Click on that setting, that gear wheel, the gear wheel over there.
The what?
Under the little gear thing, the setting symbol, under create snapshot, under the orange thing.
Right here?
Next to it, that one. Right. So I want to see if created. Yeah, no, it's not there. So okay. Okay. Click out. Yeah, so I guess it's the started date is the created date. So thank you, Mr. Henry. I'll see you next week. So you have one you created 2.1 and you have one you created 2.2. So the one you're about to delete is the latest one you created.
Okay. All right. So okay. All right. So what I was doing was I go back to here and match the one that I want to delete. Was this one right here? Control that. I go to this snapshot because I don't want to get confused. Snapshot. 2A.
So that's the thing. When you are naming your snapshot, you use like a different name for them, right? So let's say you already created one before, you didn't delete that one, then use like V2, version 2, version 3. So that way, when you go back and look at it, you know which one is the new one you create, right?
Okay.
So I'll say just leave it for now until it's not gonna cost you anything to have them there, right?
Yeah.
So
But see,
drag your name. So
but this is how I got it right here.
okay.
This is
Create
where
image.
this is
Okay.
at.
So that image is matching to the current image you are using is matching to that snapshot.
Right.
Okay. So if you verify that, then you can delete the other one. So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's the current one you are using.
Right.
So you want to delete the other one, not this one. So on this one, also make sure like the date. Okay, so select out that one at the top.
Nope, ain't it.
So it might be this one because that one you didn't tag it.
Yeah, this one. This the one. See, but when I go to actions, then I go to delete snapshot.
All right, Sean. I'll see you next time. See you
Yeah,
next week.
delete.
Bye.
Yeah, and this is what it gives me. It's currently in use.
Right. So you have to delete your AMI first. No. Is that how you delete it?
Mm-hmm.
Click on the other one. Act like you're as if you're about to delete it. Let me see. Okay. Oh, don't delete, please. I just want to see. The disable is, I think it's deregister you. But then go and try to delete it. See.
Try to
View all
delete them.
disable. So click view all disable image up there in the green. In the green. Right there. The disabled images. Is that where you click disabled images?
Mm-hmm.
No, you click the ID. So go back. You were supposed to click the disabled, view all disabled images right there. So, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So it says, okay. So that's the one. Okay, go in there. Go in there. Go in that one. Yeah. Then select actions again. Let's see. The register AMI. Then go and to a snapshot. That's not it.
Yeah, this is it. All right. Do my actions.
All right. Well, so and your image is built. So that job was successful. So you can, so everything is working properly. So just make sure when you paste the other job, just make sure that your indentations are not off, because that's the only thing that will make it.
Yeah. See, yeah, it's an item. All right. Oh, okay.
You don't have to worry about your runner yet, because once you create it and you use it, it will be there, right? Then once you delete the runner itself from the console, this will show up offline. If you want to clean it up, then you can come in here and clean it up. But if you still need that runner, don't delete it from here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, everything is working.
The clean this on up so everything can fall in line. Can I delete these?
No, you can. That's the history of your pipeline. I don't think you can. There's no
Yeah.
reason to delete it.
Okay. All right.
And
I ain't gonna delete it then.
I haven't tried it. There's no reason to delete it. Like, it has different commits where you did different things. So all this stuff, oh, okay, yes, you can. Okay. I didn't know you can delete it. I haven't tried it. Okay. Well, if for your own purpose you want to delete it just to see the ones that are clean, yeah. But I always just leave it there. Okay.
All right.
That's it. Do you have any other question before I go?
I do not. I do not. And I appreciate you, my guy. Are you coming on this Wednesday?
No, I will try to be online sometime this week, but I don't know what day yet.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Just yeah, I'm gonna be looking for you if you come on YouTube or whatnot.
Okay, sure. Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
I could probably help the other guy if he want to help, but
No,
I
he's
don't know.
fine. He's fine. He knows what he needs to do. So
Okay.
he's been working independently. When he asks questions, he just drop into ask. So he's fine. I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. All right, thank you. Thank you everyone. Have a good weekend. I'll see you guys next week. And thank you guys. Bye.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.